I begged him not to stop as my son's body pressed against mine, and I begged him not to stop. I know how that sounds. Believe me, I do. If you had told me a year ago that I'd be saying those words out loud, even in the privacy of my own mind, I would have laughed, or maybe cried. Because I used to think I knew exactly who I was: wife, stepmother, loyal, predictable, the kind of woman who makes dinner every night, who folds laundry with the same rhythm she folds her doubts away. But then, it happened. And now, I can't go back. I don't know what's worse, what we did, or the fact that I don't regret it the way I should. It started slowly, the way storms always do. Not with lightning, but with silence, with the hum of things left unsaid. And then came the thunder. One moment, I was reaching for something on the shelf. The next, I felt him behind me, his breath at my neck, his warmth soaking into my skin. And I didn't move. I didn't say stop. I said, don't. I wish I could tell you I pulled away. I wish I could say I screamed. But the truth is, I leaned into it. Into him. Into everything I had buried for far too long. This isn't a story about seduction. It's a story about being seen, for the first time in years, by someone who wasn't supposed to look at me that way. And me. Looking back. Anyway, here's what really happened. Before that night, my life was made of routines. Quiet, colorless routines. I woke up at 6 a.m. sharp, made coffee, kissed my husband's forehead if he hadn't already left for the garden, folded his laundry, watered the plants, made polite conversation about the weather or grocery lists. Every day felt like I was performing in a play no one was watching. Victor, my husband, had retired 3 years ago. Not from life, just from me. He loved his projects: woodworking, puzzles, tomatoes. And I stopped being one of them a long time ago. We didn't fight. We didn't scream. We just faded. And when moved back in, I thought maybe, just maybe, the house would feel less hollow. He'd lost his job in the city, said he needed time, space, a reset. I understood that, maybe more than I wanted to admit. He kept to himself mostly. Headphones, long showers, late breakfasts. But every now and then, he'd offer to help with the groceries, or fix something I hadn't even realized was broken. And when he smiled at me, God, I felt it. Not because it was wrong, but because it reminded me I was still here. Still visible. Still a woman. There was no plan, no intention. Only an ache. A silence I had learned to live with, until someone filled it with music again. And sometimes, silence isn't peaceful. Sometimes, it's a warning. But I didn't listen. Not then. Because part of me was already leaning toward the fire. At first, barely spoke to me. He was polite, distant, like a guest who wasn't sure how long he'd be staying. He'd pass me in the hallway with a quiet morning, eyes lowered, earbuds in. But slowly, something shifted. It started with small things. He noticed when I rearranged the kitchen. He complimented the candles I lit in the evenings. Once, I caught him staring at a photograph of me and Victor from years ago. When I asked what he was looking at, he just said, "You looked happy." That stayed with me longer than it should have. We began to linger. 5-minute chats in the kitchen turned into long silences that didn't feel uncomfortable. He'd ask me about my job, my favorite songs, what I used to dream of before all this. And I don't know when I started waiting for those conversations. Or when I started changing out of my pajamas before coming down for coffee. I just know that one morning, I walked into the kitchen and he looked up from his cereal. And he saw me. Not the woman who folds laundry or stirs soup. Not Dad's wife. But me. That look, it lingered. It warmed and unnerved me all at once. It wasn't lust, not yet. It was awareness, curiosity, recognition. The kind of look you give someone when you think they've been asleep for a long time. And they're finally starting to wake up. And maybe I was. It was supposed to be a quiet weekend. Victor had booked the cabin months ago, one of those rustic places up in the mountains. No signal, no neighbors, just pine trees and a wraparound porch. He said it would be good for all of us. Fresh air, space to think. Mostly, I think he wanted to work on his birdhouse project without interruption. We arrived on a Thursday. By Friday morning, he was gone. His business partner had called, something urgent back in town. Victor barely looked at me as he packed. He just said, "You two enjoy the quiet." And then it was just me and... The rain came fast, heavy, relentless. By late afternoon, the power flickered, then died. We lit candles, found flashlights, settled in. I was in the kitchen, searching for matches, when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, and there he was. Standing so close I could feel the heat of him. The candlelight softened the angles of his face, but his eyes were sharp, unmoving. "I didn't mean to startle you," he said. But he didn't step back. "It's okay," I whispered. And it was. Until it wasn't. A branch slammed against the window, making me jump. Instinctively, I reached out, and so did he. Our hands touched. And neither of us pulled away. For a heartbeat, everything stilled. The rain, the guilt, the world. "You're shivering," he said, voice low. "I'm fine," I replied, though my whole body betrayed me. Then I felt it, his hand on my back. Warm, grounding, terrifying. I breathed, unsure whether it was a warning or a plea. "I know," he said, "but I'm not walking away unless you tell me to." And I didn't. I couldn't. Because the storm outside was nothing compared to the one rising in me. And for the first time in years, I didn't want to feel safe. I wanted to feel alive. I should have walked away. I should have laughed it off, moved past him, poured myself some tea, and acted like the moment hadn't just swallowed the air between us whole. But I didn't. I stayed rooted in place, my pulse pounding in my ears, louder than the wind slamming against the cabin walls. He was still standing there. Close. Too close. I could smell the faint trace of his soap, feel the warmth of his body behind mine. He didn't touch me again, not yet. But I felt his presence like gravity. "I should check the firewood," I mumbled, stepping sideways, trying to create space, but not meaning it. "You don't have to run," he said gently. "I'm not." "You are." There was no challenge in his voice, no arrogance, just observation. And the worst part was, he was right. I had spent years running from disappointment, from loneliness, from the aching silence inside my own home. But now, for once, someone had caught up to me. The power flickered back on, then off again, like the world couldn't decide if it wanted to watch what came next. Reached for my hand, slowly. His fingers brushed mine, and I didn't move. I didn't stop him. "I'm not trying to hurt you," he said. I see you, Linda, I see how hard you try, how much you carry, and I know no one says it, but I see it." I turned then. Not fully, just enough. Enough for my back to press lightly against his chest. "I don't know what I'm doing," I whispered. "Neither do I," he replied. "But this doesn't feel wrong." And in that moment, it didn't. When his arms wrapped around me, I didn't fight it. When his lips brushed the curve of my shoulder, I leaned back. And when I whispered, "Don't stop," I meant it. God help me, I meant it. His touch wasn't rushed. It wasn't hungry or forceful. It was reverent, careful, as if he thought I might break. And maybe I would have. If he had said the wrong thing. If he had hesitated. But he didn't. The way he held me, like I was something precious, something real, brought tears to my eyes before anything else did. Not because of what was happening, but because of how long it had been since anyone looked at me that way. Touched me that way. He traced my collarbone slowly, like he was memorizing a language he'd only just discovered. His lips moved across my shoulder, my neck, his breath warm against my skin. And I stood there, still as stone, until my body betrayed me, arching back, hands gripping the edge of the counter, searching for something to hold on to. It was quiet. No moans, no heavy breaths. Just the rain tapping on the roof. And the sound of my heartbeat thundering in my ears. Every inch of me felt awake. Not just my body, but my memory. Of who I used to be. Of what it meant to feel desired, wanted, seen. But beneath the warmth bloomed something colder. The echo of his father's voice. The weight of my own name. Linda, wife, stepmother. And yet I didn't stop. Because in that moment, guilt and want lived in the same breath. I didn't feel like a bad woman. I felt like a forgotten one. Finally remembered. And maybe that was the worst part of all. The next morning, I woke before the sun. Not because of the storm. But because of what we'd done. I sat on the edge of the bed, the blanket twisted around me like a question I couldn't answer. The room still smelled like firewood and rain, and him. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I just listened, to the creak of the cabin, the soft ticking of the clock, the ache behind my ribs. When I finally stepped into the kitchen, he was already there. Pouring coffee like nothing had changed. He glanced up. Our eyes met. And just like that, I looked away. Pretending to fix my hair. Pretending the floor was suddenly fascinating. Pretending I wasn't unraveling one breath at a time. He didn't say a word. He just slid a mug across the counter toward me and offered the smallest smile. And somehow, that undid me more than anything. Victor texted that morning, said he'd be back the next day. I stared at the message, my hands trembling, the screen blurry. How was I supposed to look my husband in the eye again? I busied myself with dishes, with laundry, with silence. But it didn't help. The guilt clung to me like smoke. I kept hearing his voice. Not Victor's. The way he said my name. Like it was a secret. Like it mattered. And part of me hated how much I wanted to hear it again. I told myself it was a mistake. One night. One moment of weakness. But the lie didn't hold. Because every time he entered the room, my pulse betrayed me. Every time he looked at me, I felt it, that quiet undoing. Like I'd left a door open, and now the wind wouldn't stop. Didn't push. He didn't bring it up. But his presence was steady, soft, intentional. He started doing more around the cabin, chopping firewood, fixing the window latch, offering to help with dinner. And he'd hum under his breath while he moved, like he wasn't carrying a single ounce of guilt. I hated that. But I also envied it. One afternoon, I found him on the porch, staring out at the trees. He didn't look at me when he spoke. "Does it keep you up at night?" he asked. I didn't answer. He turned then, "Because I think about it constantly." I sat beside him, not touching, not speaking. Just there. He continued, voice quieter now. "I'm not proud of what we did. But I'm not sorry either." And I knew exactly what he meant. I wasn't proud. I wasn't even sure I was sane. But I wasn't sorry. Because in that moment, wrapped in silence and pine-scented air, I felt more seen than I had in years. Was it wrong? Absolutely. But was it real? Yes. And maybe that's what scared me most. Not that we crossed a line, but that I didn't want to go back. Victor came back earlier than planned. I was in the laundry room when I heard the front door open. Was with me, too close. We sprang apart like teenagers caught in the wrong house. Linda? Victor called. My voice caught. In here. He stepped into the room, eyes scanning. His gaze landed on, then me, then the space between us. He didn't say anything. Just nodded once and walked away. But something in his look, it stayed. It wasn't confusion, it was recognition. That night, dinner was quiet. Too quiet. Victor barely touched his food. Kept his head down. I tried to hold the pieces of normal together, but they kept slipping through my fingers. Afterward, as I loaded the dishwasher, Victor came up behind me. Not close, not affectionate, just near. I know, he said. I froze. Know what? He didn't answer. Just looked at me with eyes that had stopped loving a long time ago. Do you think I'm blind? He said finally. Or just stupid? I opened my mouth, but no words came. He sighed, walked to the living room, and picked up his crossword like we hadn't just ripped the seams of this family open. And I stood there, wet hands, beating heart, shame blooming in my chest. He had known. Maybe not everything. But enough. And the worst part? He didn't yell. Didn't cry. He just looked at me like I wasn't even worth getting angry over. Like I'd finally become as invisible to him as I'd always felt. Not because I forgave myself, but because I didn't know where else to go. Victor never mentioned it. But he started sleeping in the guest room. He said it was his back. We both knew better. Left 2 weeks later. No note, no goodbye. Just silence. I told myself it was for the best. That lines we cross don't uncross. That some fires, once lit, can only destroy. But some nights, I still turn on the porch light. Without thinking. Without hope. And every time I hear the floor creak, I wonder if it's him. But it never is. Victor walks past me like I'm made of smoke. And in some ways, maybe I am. Because I don't recognize who I was before. And I don't know who I'm allowed to be now. Was it love? No. Was it real? God, yes. And I keep thinking. If someone had reached for you, in your loneliest hour. If someone had seen you when no one else did. Would you have turned away? Or would you have leaned in? I'm not here to be pitied. Or forgiven. I just need to know. If it were you, would you have let go? Or would you have begged him not to stop, too? Not because I forgave myself. But because I didn't know where else to go. Victor never mentioned it. But he started sleeping in the guest room. He said it was his back. We both knew better. Tyler left 2 weeks later. No note, no goodbye. Just silence. I told myself it was for the best. That lines we cross don't uncross. That some fires, once lit, can only destroy. But some nights, I still turn on the porch light. Without thinking. Without hope. And every time I hear the floor creak, I wonder if it's him. But it never is. Victor walks past me like I'm made of smoke. And in some ways, maybe I am. Because I don't recognize who I was before. And I don't know who I'm allowed to be now. Was it love? No. Was it real? God, yes. And I keep thinking, if someone had reached for you, in your loneliest hour, if someone had seen you when no one else did, would you have turned away? Or would you have leaned in? I'm not here to be pitied or forgiven. I just need to know. If it were you, would you have let go? Or would you have begged him not to stop, too?